What is up, football fans? This is the Live from the 55 podcast. I am Danny Austin. It is Saturday morning. It's about 9:30. We normally record on Sunday evenings, but I've got Eddie Steele out of Edmonton coming on to talk a bunch of Edmonton Elks news, as well as just stuff from around the CFL. And both of us were available on Saturday morning. My parents are also in town, so I kind of don't want to waste my Sunday with my parents. Not waste, but I don't want to spend my Sunday with my parents recording. So instead, we were recording on Saturday morning. This will still be dropping on Monday morning. Full disclosure, though, that means that we are recording before the Montreal Alouettes and Ottawa Redblacks play later today, and before the BC Lions and Saskatchewan Roughriders play on Sunday. Those both have the potential to be really fun games and significant games in the standings. Obviously, a win by the Redblacks would be pretty big, but a win by the Alouettes sort of further establishes themselves as that sort of second team in the East, and I will argue fourth team in the CFL. I think I'd argue that pretty confidently. I don't think that's a particularly hot take by me. And then obviously the Lions and Riders, man. Lions got to win to keep pace with the Bombers, who beat the Stampeders 19-18 on Friday night. And, the Riders, like the Stampeders, are pretty desperate for wins right now. But already, we've had two games this weekend. Edmonton beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats 24-10 on Thursday. What a time to be alive. It has been a long time coming. The Elks are still 1-9. Let's not pretend that they've all of a sudden, established themselves as Grey Cup contenders. But you know what? I think this Edmonton team has been showing improvement. I think that what they did, taking a 22-0 lead against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers last week, sort of showed, okay, there's something here. And for a while, it felt like there was nothing here. They got shut out by the Lions twice earlier in the season. A lot of talk about their home losing streak. I'm at the point. Well, I talked to Eddie already, so I will just say, Eddie says, hey, they got the Ottawa Redblacks at home. He thinks that August 27th, next Sunday, is going to be the game where Edmonton finally wins at home. I sort of agree. I like what Edmonton's doing. I like what Trey Ford is doing. I like the way that the coaching staff is sort of using Ford's skill set. I think that is a big physical defense that's starting to establish itself. It is good. I'm not saying the Elks are back. That would be ridiculous. They've won one game out of 10. Currently, there is no evidence to suggest that they are going to sort of go on any sort of run here, but it's good that they won a game. It is good for the league. The Ticats, I got a lot of questions about. I do not know what's going on in Hamilton. That is a team that the expectations coming into the season were that they were going to be a Grey Cup front runner. I guess I think we could say front runner. They're currently 3-6. They're spiraling a little bit. They've lost two in a row. They lost to Edmonton. You're the first team in the league to lose to Edmonton. What is going on in Hamilton? We're going to have to check in with them pretty soon. But, when you have two Labor Day games against Toronto coming up, those are going to be tough games. And there's a possibility that these Ticats are going to be very much, I can't say they're going to be out of the conversation because they've got the same record as the Redblacks. They're, it's not like the Stamps or Riders are amazing, so I doubt that there's going to be a strong possibility of any crossovers or anything like that. But look, the Ticats, what a weird year they've had. I do sympathize. They're on their their 18th quarterback. But either way, good on Edmonton. I'm excited about that. We're gonna have a lot of Edmonton talk with Eddie Steele, who I'm super excited to have on. I want to just reiterate that. I really appreciate his time. He was awesome. Such an insightful guy. Obviously, has been in media. Has played a long time in the CFL, and with the news about Victor Cooey, felt like it was important to have him on. I sort of led my last podcast saying, I don't know what I'm talking about here, guys. I don't have enough information, but Eddie does have a lot of information, so it was really interesting chat. Last night, I'm about 11 hours removed from leaving McMahon Stadium. Winnipeg Blue Bombers 19, Calgary Stampeders 18. I don't know. The Stamps need to figure out a way to get in the end zone. It's been a couple games now. Rene Paredes kicked 6 field goals. He also missed 2. That cost him. This is a game that the Stamps had every opportunity to win and just couldn't put their foot on the gas and get it done. I think getting it done involves touchdowns. That's the ultimate goal. I will say, man, I don't know what people are talking about. All I'm hearing is that this game was dull and boring. What game were you guys watching? Relax. Okay, there were no touchdowns. Is that really the only measure for whether a game is fun and interesting? This was a crazy physical game. Tommy Lee Lewis, man, how many nice returns did that guy have? I look at Reggie Bagleton, flying through the air, coming up with one when a huge catch when the Stamps were pinned back in their own zone. Tommy Lewis in the fourth quarter going down the sideline, unreal. Mark and Michelle sprawling out between two defenders, bringing that catch down. There were so many big plays. There were fun plays. Honestly, I really enjoyed myself watching this game. If it's just touchdowns that you're looking for, guys, I mean, watch Sports Center, go on YouTube, look at a I don't know, look at a highlight reel. This is football. This was good. This was two teams that don't like each other, that have a long history together playing great football. Willie Jefferson, what a player. Adam Bighill, what a player. Man, Demario Houston with a pick six. This Bombers defense is so good. It's probably the last team you want to be playing with if you're a Stampeders offense that's a little bit low on confidence. And I think they are low on confidence. I don't think things are fully clicking. But I saw some, I saw a Stamps team that fought. And look, I'm not trying to put this on any one player. But there were no touchdowns. Well, Luther Hacken-Avanu had a drop there that was a pretty much surefire touchdown had he caught the ball. Stamps would have won the game if that had happened. Let's be honest. That happens, and then it's very shortly after that Jake Mayer throws the pick six, which is a bad play as well. I'm a little bored of people saying, "Oh, Jake Mayer, Jake Mayer, Jake Mayer." I thought he played a pretty decent game. Had one big mistake, didn't work out. Yes, this guy has got some improvement to do. No one's denying that. But if Luther comes down with that ball, they win the game. And there was a Trey Roberson earlier in the game. Did have a drop. Probably should have been an interception. Rene Paredes misses 2 field goals. I'm not putting this game on him. One of them was a long one. Stamps were 1 point short. Yes, the Bombers were playing with Drew Brown as their, that's their backup. It's not Zach Collaros. This game is probably different if Zach is in there. But, Drew Brown threw for golly knows how many yards a week earlier against Edmonton. Definitely 300. I could look it up. I'm not going to. But he was great. Had people talking about how he'd earn himself a starting role somewhere in the league next year. Well, Stamps held him to 17 for 27 for 171 yards, no touchdowns. It was pretty impressive there. We talk all the time about how good this Bombers receiving group is, and they are. I mean, Dalton Schoen, Nick Dembski, Sheed Bailey, Drew Wolotarski, Kenny Lawler. That's a great group. I'm not trying to say not, but the Stamps contain them. Stamps did a nice job. It was against the backup quarterback, but you still got to go out and do the job. And I thought the Stamps defense really, really stepped up in a real way after a very difficult, challenging performance against the BC Lions a week ago. So if people are just going to dismiss that saying, "Oh, I was the backup quarterback," well, all right. I don't really have a counter argument beyond you beat what's in front of you, and the defense did everything in its power. The only difference in this game, I mean, is a pick six. That's the reality. I thought that the Stamps defense was better than the Bombers offense. I thought on special teams, I mean, Shaq Richardson coming in, showed up at practice on Wednesday. On Friday night, he's blocking a punt. I think it was a punt. Might have been a field goal. Should have that up. But that's a nice reintroduction to everyone. Jonathan Moxey wasn't even out there. So I really do think that the defense was great. I thought special teams was excellent. Tommy Lee Lewis was just, his returns, how that guy hasn't taken one back. Doesn't even really matter if he's taking one back. That's not the only job of the return. It's to establish field position, and he gave it. The offense just couldn't quite get it in there. I don't know. This is the same thing week after week that we talk about. And for me, this game came down to one, not one mistake. That's the thing. It's not fair to say that this came down to the pick six, because it didn't. It came down to a lot more than the pick six. There was the pick six. There was the dropped interception. There was the dropped field goal, dropped touchdown pass. So I don't know, guys. This is the Stamps team. I was talking to Ryan Ballantyne after, and I think I'm going to have him on Wednesday. My parents are here until Wednesday, so I'm going to drop them off at the airport, come in, and we'll probably do a pretty big Stamps episode with Ryan. We'll obviously try to keep it CFL in general, but we'll have Ryan on it, and we laughed because, we thought that the Stamps were probably going to come out of August 2-9 when they had Toronto, BC, Winnipeg, Toronto. Look, the worst they can be is 3-8. They beat Toronto. They've got Toronto next week. It's frustrating, but they lost by 1 point. When you go back, they've lost in overtime twice. This entire season has just been games that, you just sort of feel like if one or two moments go the other way, but they're not going the Stamps way. That's the reality right now. And I think you make your own luck. So that's not me saying, oh, there was no responsibility. But a little bit of confidence, a little bit of swagger. That's what Dave Dickinson said. Yeah, that would make a big difference. But we saw Jake Mayer push the ball downfield. I thought he looked pretty good. It's not enough, but I also, 11 of 24 for 190 yards with one interception, no touchdowns. It's not enough. I don't know if there was a ton of progress that the Stamps are going to be thrilled about on offense, but I don't know. It's the Bombers, man. Like that defense. Guys, look who's on that defense. We have to accept where the Stampeders are right now. We can't just think, oh, they're suddenly going to turn into the 2017 or 2018 Stampeders. That's not who they are right now. They are a work in progress. So the idea that, oh, well, they lost to the Bombers, what a nightmare. I had people saying, oh, well, the season's done. No, the season's not done, guys. They have 2 games against Edmonton, who, yes, look better. Stamps better beat Edmonton both those games. They better win Labor Day, and they better win when they go back up. They have games against Hamilton later in the season. There are a lot of winnable games coming up for the Stampeders. Let us not forget who the Bombers are. The Stamps, as they are currently constructed, nobody in their right mind is picking the Stampeders to beat the Bombers, and they lost by 1. And the Stamps shot themselves in the foot with a number of mistakes. If it makes you mad that they're making mistakes, I can't tell you that you're wrong. I understand that. But if you accept who they are, that they are not right now the best team in the league, that they are not right now the second best team in the West or the first best team in the West, that they're trying to play catch up, that they are behind the Lions, that they are behind the Bombers. Right now, they're behind the Riders. If you accept that and you are looking for progress instead of signs that they are all of a sudden going to reemerge as this powerhouse, it's not going to happen this year, guys. Like they may emerge by season's end as a team that is competitive and might be able to win playoff games. I'm not saying that they won't, but if you were just expecting them to play to the standard that they were, back when they won the Grey Cup every year, no, it's a work in progress. It's a young team. Not everything is fitting right now. They are going to have to improve. And I understand how frustrating it is to see a team that's 3-7. I don't know. I really enjoyed that game. I thought that given what happened against the Lions, if you don't see progress, I think that you're missing the forest for the trees. I really do. And it might not get better next week. We might be sitting here next weekend, guys, talking about another loss to the Argos in Toronto. That's a tough game. The Argos are right now the best team in the league. So all I can preach is patience. I'm still having fun. I'm still having the time of my life. Love covering this league. Can't wait to watch the Alouettes and the Red Blacks. Can't wait to watch the Lions and the Rough Riders. Can't wait to look ahead to week 12. Watch all that. It's going to be great. You got Montreal, Winnipeg next week. I'm just looking at it now. Calgary, Toronto, Hamilton, BC. That's not a good game, but I'm going to keep my excited voice on, trying to be positive. It's a Saturday morning. Ottawa, Edmonton. Edmonton might finally win at home. Gosh, what a time to be alive, guys. Anyways, real quick, we're going to go to Eddie Steele right now. He's got lots to say. He's the best dude. Really, really interesting interview. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you quickly to Fraser and Fig, who, by the way, I am picking up a Fraser and Fig charcuterie board on Tuesday. Heading out to my aunt's Buffalo Ranch. We're bringing, my dad ordered a large charcuterie board, so I cannot wait. We're not going to eat it on air. No, not doing that. We keep promising we're going to do that, but that takes a little bit of organization. I got to have John Bender. I got to have Cammy Kepke. I got to have Ian Busby. We're all going to do it together. We got to get Cammy on the show soon. That's a priority for me. But anyways, yeah. Thank you to Fraser and Fig. Can't wait to chow down on that. And thank you to Muggs Pub. Can't wait to play some trivia, watch some football at Muggs Pub. Thank you to both our sponsors. And thank you to you, our listeners. We will be back on Thursday to talk all things CFL. I'm saying this is just as if this is the outro. It's not. Let's go to Eddie Steele. Can't wait for you guys to hear what he has to say. Cheers. Guys, what are you doing tonight? I don't know what you're doing tonight. You're probably looking for something. Guys, you got to go check out Muggs Pub. This is probably my favorite pub in the city, 1330 15th Avenue Southwest, right in the Beltline. Honestly, they do it all. I, for years, played trivia on Wednesday nights at Muggs. It's the best trivia night in the city. Other nights, they got music. They got specials every single night. Some of the best food and drink specials in the entire city are at Muggs Pub. You want wine, you want beer, you want cocktails. They got it all. Big fan of their fish and chips. They got some amazing pizza. You want to watch the game? They got TV screens. You want to just have a drink with friends? Perfect spot to do it. You want to have some food? As I said, it's delicious. Mugs Pub. We love having them as a sponsor. We love having them just down the road from us here at our studios. Check out Mugs Pub. They're the best. All right, as promised, we have Eddie Steele. Eddie, I don't even really know how to introduce you. You've done everything. How would you introduce yourself if you were?
I would just go has been former football player. I mean, I did 9 years in the league, won a Grey Cup with the Edmonton Eskimos, the then Eskimos, and did a little bit of media, some radio work, and got you know fired from that a couple of years ago for opening my mouth a little bit too wide, and that actually ended up giving me a great opportunity that presented itself with Sportsnet to do a little bit of TV work covering a Grey Cup, where I first met you, Danny.
Of
So
course.
yeah, I've kind of dipped my toes in a few different waters, and it's been a fun go, that's for sure.
Yeah, I will also say I don't think that you opened your mouth too much there. I mean, that's a smart way of saying it, I guess, at this point. But like, we need people who call stuff out in the league, and I certainly know that a lot of us appreciate it. It's just that everything's gone. It's not like things have gotten better since then in Edmonton necessarily. So it's been weird. But I guess I don't just want to jump right into the negatives, because I mean, it's been a while since these guys have won a game, and the Elks actually won. You happy to see it? What did you like from that game?
Yeah, absolutely. Way overdue. I mean, geez, they were sitting at 0-9, and like we haven't seen that. I haven't seen that at all. I don't know how long you've been covering the league, but I'm sure you probably haven't seen that in your CFL lifespan either. And man, it's tough to see, especially with the franchise that Edmonton is, right? They are so used to being a staple and a flagship organization, a pillar in the CFL with a ton of success. So to see them kind of in the dumpster the way they've been over the past few years, it really hurt. So when they finally got that win, it was awesome to see. Made me feel good. It really did. And Trey Ford, like, what can you say? The kid's a stud. He really is. And I have to eat my words a little bit, because maybe I was buying into a little bit of what Chris Jones was saying in terms of Ford wasn't ready, had a bad training camp, wasn't looking too good in practice. And quite honestly, I spoke to a couple players too on the team who told me some similar sentiments, right? So, but when the lights turned on, I mean, the past 2 weeks, Trey Ford's looked really good in my opinion. So, I mean, the future is bright there, certainly. So that's good for the organization.
Yeah, my thing with the Trey Ford situation there, when they weren't playing him for so long, had more to do with, like, I just felt like Taylor Cornelius's confidence was getting broken down. Like, you can't. I don't like seeing a young player, particularly in a high profile position like quarterback, who is struggling. I don't like seeing them just kind of get trotted out there to look bad again and again and again. So I just wanted them to do something different, and especially because at the beginning of last year, I mean, Trey Ford, it was super, super small sample size, but I mean, it's not like we didn't see that he could play. I mean, he had the arm. He got hurt against Calgary, but at least on one drive, had a huge throw
In the
downfield. So
throw. Yeah.
yeah, so I was just kind of to be honest, had more to do with the sympathy for Cornelius, because there does come a point, and I think we're seeing it a little bit with Jake Mayer here in Calgary, where his confidence seems to be shook, and you just give them a little bit relief. Like, I know that they do that in hockey when the goalie's confidence is shook. Just give him a week off, give him a week to work on his game, like, do whatever. And so for me, seeing Trey come in, and I mean, they're not asking them to be Warren Moon,
No.
but he looks good. Like, he looks confident, and it looks like something you can build around. That's for sure.
Especially this last game against Hamilton, what really impressed me was just some of the movements. If you pay attention, and you would totally know this, just the nuances, and you can see the confidence. He's moving around, rolling out, looking to throw still, looking to find guys instead of just your typical rollout and tuck it just to get whatever yards you can get. And little things like that, that's really good to see, especially for a young quarterback. Uh, I do want to ask you this, because you're right there in the scene. Is that what you think it is with Jake? And is that confidence, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're waiting for the Stampeders team for some of these young guys to step up. I think we saw Clark Barnes, but I do feel like if you were to ask me who the best players have been, it's been veterans right now for this team, and I don't think that they can fully continue that way. And that's something that, I mean, you heard it about Trey Ford, Jeff Hamilton. I think we'll have a story coming eventually where he talked to some guys, and I do think the offensive line hasn't been very good. I don't think Jake's been great under pressure. And I think then he's being put under a lot of pressure. and I do think he throws off his back foot quite a bit, but he makes some throws. I mean, yesterday he had a great throw to Tommy Lee Lewis where he was rolling out of the pocket. Um, so I mean, I my main answer would be like I don't fully get it because I've seen Jake be much better than this. And like that, I mean, that pick six yesterday, I'd argue was really the one mistake he made all game.
Yeah.
Um, but you can't make that mistake, right? So where does it fall in? And then like against BC, I thought the play calling was really underwhelming. I didn't think that they were pushing downfield. Like I think as you know with football, like it's all the puzzle pieces have to fit. And then when you have a quarterback who, we're not hearing from him or from Dave Dickinson any concerns about the confidence, but like there's no way that when this is happening again and
It's
again and again,
visible. It's visible.
it's visible. And like we saw him, he's played about 20 games now, and definitely for the first half of those games, like this was a guy who could make the throws, who looked,
Lights out. Lights out.
yeah. So I don't know, but I will say that I don't have faith that any of the other three guys, quarterbacks on the Stampeders roster, are ready to go. Like it's going to be Jake for the rest of the year, and I just injuries to receivers are hurt. Losing Malik Henry, although I thought Mark and Michelle stepped up. I think that the O line, I really do think the O line played well yesterday. There's only so much you can do against Willie Jefferson, but
Yeah.
like that, it's everything. And then I do think Jake needs to be better, and I think they need to figure out how to actually use his skill set. But um, it's the reality is it's not working.
It's amazing how much things change in a year. Because take Nathan Rourke out of the picture last year. Even myself, I was saying Jake Mayer and Taylor Cornelius. They were the next up and comers. I was bullish on
Yeah.
both of them, and I still really do believe in Jake. I do. You can see he's got just the talent of an arm. But you're right that the first half of his career, starts wise, has been drastically different than the
And
back half here.
you would know this better than most. Like how much like they talk about how in baseball, like a rookie pitcher, his first time through the majors, you can't trust the numbers because teams figure out what he can do and figure out how to kind of hit off him. Is that similar with quarterbacks? Like, because I do feel like we see quarterbacks get off to hot starts and then come back down to earth the second teams have tape on them.
Absolutely, and you nailed it. It's the tape, Danny. And case in point, and I've been hard on him. I don't want to. It's nothing personal. It's just the reality of what I see. Cody Fajardo, he
Yeah.
had a great year in Saskatchewan in 2019, and I always knew because he was a backup third stringer for the previous 3-4 years of his career. I knew what he was about at that point. I played him. I saw him. So when he had that one breakout year in Saskatchewan, where everybody was dubbing him as the best thing around. And I caught a lot of flack because I said, hold on, pump the brakes. And actually, if you go back and look at the history, everybody who agreed with me was players who knew. Exactly, players who knew. And sure, he's not a dreadful quarterback, but he's certainly not a 5,000-yard passing quarterback like he was that year. It's kind of like the stars aligned. And what's funny about that is Stephen McAdoo was his offensive coordinator that year, Jones's boys. So
Yeah.
it's pretty funny actually how that works.
So I mean, since we're talking quarterbacks, do you believe then? I mean, Chad Kelly now. I mean, he's still only what 9 starts into his CFL career, really. But do you buy him?
I do buy him. You can tell guys when Chad Kelly's a passer, and you can tell when the ball that comes out of his hand, much like Jake. Like you can tell it's Jake throws a different ball than Chad in the sense it's more touch, more finessey. Chad rips it though, man, and he lets that thing go. And he is the definition of a gunslinger. And from what I've heard the dude is just a real good teammate. Like obviously we know the history of
Yeah.
his past transgressions, but I've heard he's really matured, and I heard he's a hell of a teammate out there.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Like I've heard that they love him in
Yeah.
Toronto. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get the NFL shot that he wants, but if he doesn't, like, I mean, what more can you? That Toronto team just seems where we both. I mean, Corey Mace is just one of the good guys, and I know so many of the coaches there, so it's like it almost feels.
Swagged out. He's got him swagged out.
Yeah,
He really does. And with Toronto, it's they're coming off of a Grey Cup win. And normally Toronto wins a Grey Cup every 3-4 years, but
and then
they're bad.
out. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. They're going slumps right now. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to say they're the best team in the league right now. Winnipeg. They're proven Winnipeg's a beast, a giant, but I think Toronto right now looks better.
No, I agree. I mean, the thing with Winnipeg is I always feel like I'm looking for signs of their regression, whereas with the Argos, I'm looking for signs that they are this good.
Opposite.
So yeah. But I mean, I honestly like people talk about it, but it is that big three right now because I'm so impressed with Vernon in BC. Like I
Mhm.
honestly I had Farhan on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was just saying he was like, at what point are people going to stop saying that Vernon is inconsistent? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
he had one bad game against the Argos this year, but like go back however many
playing
seasons
good
you
ball.
want. He doesn't have that many bad games, and people just
No.
say he does. It's a little bit like Sean Lemon. I always used to hear Sean Lemon was a bad teammate and stuff, and it was like there was just actually no evidence to support it at
No.
all.
No. No.
And you
I don't know where these this rhetoric comes from, right? With Lemon and like he's been cut, and the coaches will go out in the media and say things, and I just don't get it. I know I'm on a personal level, you do as well. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. It makes no sense. I love what he's doing right now. Like
so
it's
good,
such a big fu to so many people to
including
even
everyone here in
believe,
Calgary. We know that.
you know,
Yeah,
like in VA, same deal. Like VA is producing in BC. It's not just their offense who is making them look good, but their defense is playing lights out, man. Ryan
yeah,
Phillips has those boys playing fast right now.
yeah. It's amazing, and they've got that swagger to them, which I
Yeah,
just like you can feel. And I mean, that D line is it comes at you in waves, like it's nonstop, and they've got. I think they dress more D line than anyone in the league,
yeah,
and you
they
can
do. I
feel
think.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, just going back to the Elks, like with that win, I had it pretty much chalked up that like, all right, well, whatever happens in August for the Stamps, they get to two Labor Day games against Edmonton, and they'll be okay because of that. Did that game at all change your opinion on how those games might go?
absolutely. And I tweeted this recently too. Um, this win against Hamilton and Ottawa, they play Ottawa this upcoming week, and Ottawa is ripe for the pickings too.
Yeah.
Who's kidding who? Like, if you, a spade is a spade, Edmonton's record's not anything good, but
Mhm.
they haven't been playing bad football. They haven't played a full football game, but they played Winnipeg really tight 2 weeks ago too. So, like, they actually have been starting to play some good football and start to elevate their game a little bit. So, this Ottawa game, if they can go and win this game against Ottawa at home, first win at home in front of the fan base since the rebrand.
Mhm.
And then you got a little momentum in your 2 wins, and you're right almost in the thick of it in terms of the playoff mix, as
Yeah,
crazy as that is to say. And then you got Calgary, who might be limping into the Labor Day week. I mean, there's something there, and Chris Jones might be able to turn something around here.
I know it's not that far off. No, I think Ottawa fights. Like I like the way Bob Dice has that team playing.
Mhm.
It's just is the execution there.
Yeah,
And no, I mean that's the reality is like look, the Riders have the Lions tomorrow. They're probably not winning that game. Like there's
yeah,
a good chance that the Stamps and Riders will have 3 and 4 wins
yeah.
going into their Labor Day games. The Riders are not beating Winnipeg in those
No,
games. Not
no,
without like they
no.
don't have a quarterback, right? Like they just don't.
No, no, no. With Mason Fine, no, they're not. Those you can
Is
chalk
it
those.
even Mason Fine at this point? Like, I don't know what his
Well, yeah,
injury
he
is.
pulled his hammy, but I'm thinking he'll be back based off what I heard.
Yeah.
I heard by that point he should be back, but you never know. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're a hurting unit over there too.
I know. I mean, you mentioned the home losing streak. Like the home win almost like I mean, it just matters at this point, right? Like I talked to Jerry Modajong. There is just like an embarrassment and a frustration that seems to have settled in.
Yeah.
It would it, that's the key here to sort of starting to re-engage the fan base just a little bit. It's just get one. Just stop the bleeding.
That's all it comes down to. I'm asked this question all the time, honestly, Danny. What do they need to do to get people back to re-engage? I don't want to hear the garbage about "Yeah, they got to change their name back." Like that
No,
just
of course not.
shows how uneducated you are if you really think an organization is going to turn around, spend 20 plus million to go back to being the Eskimos. That's not how it works. But all you have to do is win. That's all you have to do. Win and people will come. They will come back. Pro football is not about anything else but winning. The ex-president Len Rhodes famously said back in 2016, I believe it was, when he fired Ed Hervey, he said, pro football is more than about winning football games. And that is so wrong. That is so backwards. And that's why Len Rose is out as president, because it's only about winning football games. You win games, people buy jerseys, people buy merch, people come to the games, people buy season tickets, people buy the hot dogs, the beers. It is all about winning. Everything else is secondary. Winning
Well,
in pro sports is everything. Win
and
and they'll come.
and like that's true of every market. Like we haven't seen it. It hasn't been tested in Winnipeg because the Bombers have been so good for the last 5 years. But like Regina at the end of last year, like the Riders were not coming anywhere near a sellout. They were not drawing big.
No.
Calgary. I mean, I think Calgary is one of those markets where it's a little bit more complicated right now. Wins would bring a couple thousand more fans back,
Mhm.
but at the same time, like people ask me, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, man. Like this is not just wins and losses.
You can
There's
feel it, hey?
yeah, there's something's changed. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is, and to be honest, like Jay McNeil, who's the VP of business operations, I do not put it on him. Like he's doing a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I met up. I'm not drinking right now, but like I met up at a bar with Derek Taylor, Jeff Hamilton,
Yeah.
Farhan showed up, and like, look, there were like 2 or 3 TVs playing Thursday night's game. The majority was NFL preseason at the
Mm.
bar. I mean, like that's just the reality in Calgary right now.
Yeah.
And I don't see the Stamps having a presence around the city outside of McMahon, really. But I also think the fact that they were, with the exception of sort of a couple of years in the early 2000s, since the 90s, they were the cream of the crop in the CFL, really. Like the Bally
Absolutely.
years, the Huffnagel years. You look at the quarterbacks, it's an incredible list. And I just think that like on some level, winning isn't enough here.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the interesting spot. But I don't know. I mean, it's tough here too, because I go back to, I started covering the team in 2016, but since then, you just look at the number of guys who went to the NFL from Calgary. There's probably 13, 14, maybe even 15 guys in 6 or 7 years. So
Yeah.
they've developed and brought in and scouted this talent that only stayed here for 2 or 3 years and then went south. And then when they came back, they didn't always come back to Calgary. Winston McManus went to Toronto. There's all sorts of examples like that. So, it's not as simple as people saying, oh, well, they can't scout. It's like, well, some of the guys they brought up here were so good that they could go make life-changing money in the NFL.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't put it on scouting or anything, because they have talent. They really do, and they've always found gems. I think there is a real thing to be said with fatigue, man. Kind of like winning, like or voters' fatigue. Sorry, for awards. People kind of get a little bit of fatigue of seeing, like you mentioned, Calgary's been the cream of the crop. Winnipeg, people are ready to start seeing Winnipeg start to get knocked off, because you get that fatigue, right? You've been dominant for so many years.
Well, I was talking to Willie Jefferson and trying to get him to say how good he is. And he just wouldn't do it because Willie's not that type of guy. He's always going to say team, team, team. But like for me, like I
On,
would
on,
compare.
on camera.
Yeah, that's probably true. But I was like, in my head, I was comparing it to like in the NBA with like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, where like people just weren't going to vote for Jokic for a third straight MVP this season. Now I'm actually not one of those people who thinks Embiid didn't deserve it, but I feel like with Willie, there's only so many ways you can say that this guy is the premier defensive end in the CFL.
I mean, it's pretty incredible. I thought he was, by my high standards for him, because I've played with him for 3 years, and
Oh, right.
we're good friends with him now still. By my high standards, I thought he's having a slow year. And then I look at the numbers and I'm thinking, Willie, is he losing a step? I look at the numbers. Guy second in the league in sacks, 2 behind Betts, and Willie has 8.
Mhm.
And he is by far leading the league in knockdowns over the next highest DB by like 8 or 9 knockdowns.
Yeah,
Man, those are just as good as sacks. So
completely.
his production actually has probably gotten better than it's ever been. Who's kidding who?
Jake Mayer, and I actually don't know that it was Willie who got his hands on the balls, but Jake, after yesterday's game, he took full accountability for the pick six. Like I'm not trying to say that he was deferring at all, but then he was like, and then there were just a couple tipped passes, and he was like there was one to Trey Odom-Stukes on the final drive, finish the drive, right? Like force them to kick from 50. Rene Paredes misses that field goal, and then there was one that I honestly thought Reggie caught the ball, but it was the one that that the Stamps challenged. It was on the turf basically, and that was a tip pass. And Jake was just like those were arguably the difference in the entire game. So it's one of those stats
Absolutely.
we don't pay enough attention to.
Absolutely, and on both of those, Willie, they moved Willie inside to defensive tackle. They had him a lot at defensive tackle, rushing over the guards. And Willie is so smart, and this is good coaching because you make your first move, and if you're not going to get there, well, then you want to just kind of press the pocket and get your hands up, get in the throwing lane, and that's exactly what Willie's doing. He wasn't beating Zach Williams, and I forget who the other guard was on
Ryan
his first
Seager.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ryan Seager,
Seager on his first move, but then he would kind of just push the pocket and then get that 6-7 frame right up.
Yeah. Well, and this is anecdotal, but like I go back to like 2019 and 2021 Grey Cups, where like, I hadn't watched Hamilton all that closely. Like my memory of those games is just the Bombers just knocking down passes on the D line. Like it wasn't actually like sacks or anything like that. It's just the Ticats couldn't get the ball anywhere near their receiver.
Right. So. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, their defensive line, that game, they dominated them. I knew on the first series, the way Jeff Coat and Willie came out in that Grey Cup, that it was game over.
Yeah, I mean, when those guys are on.
Like, yeah, you can't – there's no O-tackle in the league that can stop both of them because one guy is going to win. That's just the odds, it's reality.
Yeah, I mean, I do think people talk about there being a lack of quarterback talent. I do think that the tackle talent right now concerns me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like it does feel like there's still American defensive linemen you can get up despite the spring leagues and despite, the NFL larger practice rosters. But the NFL doesn't have enough offensive talent.
And I would thoroughly agree. I would say offensive line talent in general. It's kind of like the quarterback where you're right. There is a lack of good players. There really are. And the good players, they come at a premium. They do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Stamps are paying a lot of money to the interior. That's for sure. Like with Sean McEwen, with Sevier and Zach Williams. Okay. I got to ask you about what happened with Victor Cooey. It was such a weird, so I'll be honest with you that I had heard some things. So I didn't say anything on social media at all when it was announced because I saw the rush of fans, of some media sort of saying, this is a travesty. He's being blamed for the record, all of that. We've now seen other stuff on social media clearly indicating that, there were larger problems. What's your reaction just in general?
Yeah, initially I was pretty shocked. I was quite taken aback, but then having some more in-depth conversations and gaining some more insight, I wasn't as shocked. And I think with him, there was a big sense of empty calories with Victor, just with things that he said and just things that he wouldn't follow through on. He liked to hype up and promise a lot of things to people, and I've kind of been a casualty of that myself. It is what it is. But it's really telling when they mutually parted ways. He got fired, whatever you want to call it. It's really telling when that happened, and it actually had nothing to do with an 0-9 on-field football product, right? So that's saying something. That's saying in the offices there really was something going on because this was not about the terrible on-field product that the Elks are. So that's saying the depth of what was going on.
Yeah, like that it's actually there was a bigger issue than an 0-9 record.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah. Like that workplace environment, I heard there was many senior level staffers who were on leave and stress leave and things like that. And just, kind of bully is the word that keeps coming up, right? Bully in the work atmosphere. And I know former employees that were around the team when I was playing. And so you get to know these people well, and who are not with them anymore. And it's not very positive, the words that they have to say about Victor. Now, again, my personal encounters have been pretty good, but I totally can get that perception of the empty promises with a guy like him. I do.
Well, I mean, I'm not in any way, I don't have that insider information, but my sense was you'd see these free ticket promotions. You'd see, Victor on Twitter. And the reality is that's such a small part of the job, being on Twitter and saying how much you love the league. And it's you just get the sense that, Victor's a prominent guy. He's obviously the president. It's a big role. When I saw that they were, as you said, mutually parting ways, there was no way that there wasn't something deeper going on. And until I know what that is, I don't feel super confident that I should comment on it. Yeah. But what do you think the Elks need in a president? Is it sort of a business guy? Is it someone who has played? I mean, Like
That's
that's
a
what the
really good
Stamps did. They got Jay
question.
McNeil, who was a prominent Calgary, he's been in the Calgary corporate community, obviously has those connections, but as a former offensive lineman for the Stamps is deeply connected to the culture. And he's sort of VP of business operations, but we know what that means. And like
Yeah.
that sort of seemed like the perfect hire for me for the Stamps. But like, what would you like to see for the Elks there?
I think at this point you need to be business oriented. Not so much you have to be a former player. Or you have to, have been a part of the history of the organization. I don't think you need any of that. I think you need to get the business of this team in order because they're cooking through money right now. They're burning up the books just because they're losing so much revenue every week.
Yeah.
And let the football take care of itself. The business and football are two separate entities, and let them be those two separate entities. I think right now, I keep hearing the name Sean Fleming tossed around, but again, a guy who takes this job, you have to have quite an ego. You really do, because it is a huge undertaking. You have to have the utmost confidence in your abilities. And typically, people who get to that level in business are a level of success in business, have that confidence and have that type of ego. But it's not a quick fix. It's not anything that you come in with a new president and all of a sudden next year it's going to be changed. And keeping it real, Danny, it goes higher than the president, man. There's been an erosion in this organization, and that arrow points directly at the board of directors. Why has there been 3 or 4 presidents in the past 5 years? Like, that's the board who is making the decisions, hiring the people, and then firing them because they're the wrong person. That's directly the board of directors. And any president that comes in, they have to answer to the board. So I think it goes deeper, and I think you need to look at possibly no, not possibly. You have to look at some change up with the board of directors.
Do you buy, like Dave Naylor tweeted, that private ownership will be on the table this offseason? Do you buy that? I guess, first of all, do you buy there's a possibility? Second of all, could it be a good thing?
Yeah, I do buy it actually, man. I heard the organization was valued at like 28 million or 25 million, something in there. That's not a lot of money. There's a lot of deep pockets in this province. Down in Calgary and up here, there's a lot of deep pockets. And based off what I've heard from some of those TSN guys, the old TSN 1260 guys, they were talking on a podcast, and they were talking. They knew a couple of investors locally who actually had potentially tabled something. So we'll see. I think it would be a better direction to go than community owned, in my opinion. Because when you're community owned, sure, it's great to have the tie to the community, but there's too many hands, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, man. When you're community owned, as opposed to just a sole ownership and having someone, a head honcho, really calling the shots and hiring who he wants to hire or they want to hire.
And I have like, to be clear, zero information, but like, if the Oilers were interested, would that be? I mean, you've seen with MLSE, you've seen with CSEC here in Calgary. Like, if the Oilers ownership group was interested, would that be a positive?
I think that would be a real positive. Not only for the fact that they have the pockets, Daryl Katz has pockets, but from what I've heard, and I've never really experienced it, even dating back to 2013 when I first came on with the club, there hasn't been much. And I know the NHL CFL season, there's a small crossover, not a ton, but there's not a lot of parlaying with the two organizations, parlaying Oilers Stamps at different events and different things like that, getting players out together. I heard back in the glory days when both clubs were winning in the 80s, I heard they always did that. And they always had Oilers and Eskimos at different events and different fan days and autograph signings. I don't know why the Elks wouldn't try and piggyback on top of the fanatic madness that the Oilers have right now in the momentum that they have. I think as an organization, I would come to them and I would try and ride all those coattails possible, because right now the Oilers are the talk of the town everywhere in northern Alberta.
I say this to people all the time when they ask me about Edmonton, and I'm like, yeah, like the situation's obviously gotten bad at Commonwealth with the Elks, but also like it doesn't help that 10 blocks away you have the two most exciting hockey players in the world playing, right? I mean, that combination is always going to help, or is going to hurt your ability to like stake a claim in the market.
Absolutely. So, man, like I said, ride those coattails.
Yeah. Well, man, I've pretty much taken up the time that more time than I asked for. Can I ask just one more though? Is there
Absolutely, man.
well you like former players, honestly, if I could just do former players as every guest on the show, like it would be my move. But is there someone in the league who you don't feel is getting talked about that has sort of like caught your eye this season?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I was not prepared for that at
It's
all.
probably not fair for me to just throw it at you, to be
Yeah,
honest.
no, that's just let me think on that. That's a really good question. Um, he's getting spoken about quite a bit, just because he's standing out. But the receiver in Saskatchewan,
Sean
Canadian
Bain.
cat,
Sean
yeah,
Bain.
Maine, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's Canadian, right?
No, Sean Bain, I believe. I mean, he's
Oh, is he American?
he's American. He was
Oh,
in
I thought he
Calgary.
was Canadian.
He was in Calgary the last 2 years and was
Maine,
basically like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you're
like
right. Yeah,
him
yeah,
and
yeah.
him and Malik Henry were fighting for that starting
Yeah,
spot.
you're right. For some reason, I thought he was Canadian. Okay, scratch that.
No, no worries.
But he's
Uh,
playing well. He's playing well considering the circumstances. He's getting fed a lot of footballs, but yeah, I mean, backups to backup to the backup is playing now, so he's playing good football.
yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys who, like, the timing with Malik Henry tearing his Achilles tendon is brutal because like everyone knew Bain could play
Yeah,
in Calgary. When he got his opportunities, he was good, but he was just behind, one of the top receivers in the league on the depth chart. And then
yeah, it's
you
true.
release him, and 2 games into the season or 3 games, Malik Henry gets hurt. And you're like, man, we could use Sean Bain.
Another name actually too, and take recency bias out of it. Tommy Lee. Holy.
He's
He's
special,
he's
eh?
looked good in other games as a returner that I've seen, but yesterday he went off.
Yeah, he's so fast. Like I honestly believe that he's operating at a different speed than everyone else
He
on the
is.
team.
He
Yeah,
is visible, man. His cuts and he maintains momentum. It's wild.
yeah. No, he's that's the thing. I maintain that this Stamps team, like you asked me, well, what's wrong? Like, I don't think they're that far off.
They're not.
But they had an August that happened to include, next week's Toronto. They had 2 games against Toronto, BC, and at Winnipeg. Those are the worst teams to play if you're a little bit low on confidence, right? You need
Mhm.
the teams that are going to give you a break, that are going to get you going, and the Stamps just haven't had one of those in a while.
They haven't. They haven't. But again, this season you got Winnipeg, Toronto. Other than that, everybody's 4 wins, right? So
And
it's like
BC too.
BC.
BC's
Sorry, yeah, BC.
yeah,
Sorry, yeah. You got the
yeah.
3 teams, and then yeah, it's just a mishmash in the middle.
No, I always sort of say that I have Montreal 4 like comfortably right now, but at the same time, like that quarterback situation in Montreal, I don't like. I just have to have them significantly below. It's the top 3, maybe
Mhm.
Montreal, and then the rest of the teams. And again, you said it, man. If Edmonton beats Ottawa, I got to stop just saying like there's the top 3 and then the bottom 1,
They're not a
because
write-off. Yeah, they're not a write-off anymore.
I know we laugh at Chris Jones when he said this week that the playoffs are still a possibility, and I think people kind of chuckled, but you
Man,
actually
it's
break it
real.
down.
It's real. And honestly, Danny, I'm not sitting here as a homer or anything, but I have this feeling. I got chills thinking about it. They're gonna beat Ottawa. They got this momentum, man. You get that monkey off your back, and now they're gonna come out and they're gonna have confidence at home. Because Ottawa's they're not sharp, and Crum is a young kid too, and Jones knows how to handle young kids. So it's good. I think they're gonna do it. No, I know they're gonna do it, man. I'm confident.
It's exciting, man. I'm excited for Edmonton. I've said all season, like I took no pleasure in what was happening in Edmonton. Like I didn't like I wasn't. I mean, I'm not a real Calgary guy. I'm sort of born and
Mhm.
raised in Toronto, so I don't feel that rivalry. But like pretty much right off the bat, I was like, this sucks, man. Like I want a
Yeah,
good
it's
Edmonton
it's
team. The
tough.
league needs a good Edmonton team. Calgary needs a good Edmonton team. We need that rivalry.
He's right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
true. Yep, yep.
All right. Well, Eddie, man, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate this. Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Danny. This was awesome, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Cheers. Guys, let's say you're having a party. Let's say you're having a picnic. Let's say you're having any occasion. I got to talk to you about Fraser and Fig, because I love these guys. Here in Martin Loop, a couple storefronts down from our studio here. Fraser and Fig, man, these guys do these delicious elevated cheese and charcuterie boxes. They're made with all these fresh artisanal ingredients, on-demand grazing, pick up, delivery. You got it. Just let them know what you want. They will get it to you. Honestly, I'm such a big fan. I had a picnic a little while ago. I brought one of their curated boxes, and it was a huge hit. I looked great. People loved it. were hungry. They weren't hungry anymore. These ready to go boxes, they got them in 4 sizes. All their boxes come with meat, cheese, dried fruit, fresh fruit, nuts, olives, pickles, and carrots. Their selections vary from month to month. Choices are always new. Just because you've had one doesn't mean you've had them all. I love Fraser and Fig. I love having them as a sponsor. They're the best. Make sure you check them out. Tell them Live from the 55 sent you. All right, that was awesome. Thank you so much to Eddie for stopping by. Man, what a smart, insightful guy Eddie Steele is. So happy that he would take his time on a Saturday morning. He's got, a young family to take care of, and said, not instead, but for him to make time for me, really meant a lot. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think that, Edmonton's fascinating. That's all I'll say. Edmonton is so interesting. It's always something up there, and I think that Eddie talked through his sort of reaction this week, going from what is going on, Victor Cooey's been let go, to sort of developing a better understanding of it, to then watching the Elks beat Hamilton and getting that optimism for, hey, maybe there's something to pay attention to for the season ahead. Eddie's a guy who loves that organization, loves that city. So that was awesome to kind of hear him walk us through that. And yeah, I don't know, this has been good. I hope you guys enjoy it. We don't normally record on Saturday mornings, especially when there's 2 games coming up, but thought it was important to kind of get an episode out. And because of everything happening in Edmonton, and because both the Stamps and the Elks had already played this weekend, thought it was thought we could pull this off. Hope we did, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Mugs Pub. Thank you to Fraser and Fig. Thank you to you, our listeners. Thank you to the Nation Network. Thank you to Armada Lipstitute. Thank you to everyone. You name it. I'm just feeling grateful this morning, guys. So yeah, cheers. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you Thursday. Take care.